Hi, my name is Cam Gott. I'm an executive ADHD coach, and welcome to my Global Creative Positive Change Initiative. So this week we're looking at principle number 3. Principle number 3 is your unconventional methods are key to creating positive change. So after a couple downer principles, principle 1 and 2, this one provides a little bit of hope, a little lifting up. So I want to start with a story, and I'm going to throw up a picture of me first day of school. And so there's Cam, young Cam, first day of kindergarten. Look at that guy, right? Full of hope, full of possibility. Well, needless to say that with undiagnosed ADHD, that smile didn't last too long. And this is not to create pity for me. It's just a story. So it became apparent to me pretty quickly that others knew something I didn't know. And for the first 15 years of my life, I had this feeling that there was an owner's manual that was handed out one day when I was not there. And that others had this owner's manual and I didn't. So that was the first 15 years of my life, mostly at school. And then the next 15 years was really searching for this manual, right? Looking for some way to operate in the world. And I'm just absolutely convinced that others had this, and I just needed to learn this from others. And so all the way through up to my 30s and into my 30s, kind of seeking out and trying to learn from others. And along the way, I was not really paying attention to my own methods, which were unconventional and original. And this is what happens is that when clients come to work with me, right, these so-called global creatives, they're extremely creative and original thinkers, and yet they often downplay that creativity or those unconventional methods because they're coming in and they've hit a pain point, right? They've got a dilemma that they can't solve, and that's when we bring in help. So they come and they can help me with this pain point. And so this is the basis of the work that I do it's strength-based coaching. So strength-based coaching is not just about strengths. It's identifying those challenges, but also identifying and elevating those strengths. And part of principle number 3 is that your strengths are in part lie within those unconventional methods. So a little side note here, and I would call this a Cam rant that I often do on the podcast, Translating ADHD. Here's my rant today. You know, we love to celebrate outliers and originals, mavericks and innovators, right? Adam Grant has his books Originals, and Malcolm Gladwell has his book on outliers. We don't really tether this behavior, their behavior, right? These originals to their brain wiring. So where do you think that out-of-the-box thinking comes from? Our originality, our unique way of seeing the world and operating in the world is tethered inextricably to our brain wiring, to our neurodiversity. And so in part, it's recognizing these unconventional methods, and then it's tethered to the way we're wired. So let's go ahead and put principle 3 up on the screen. And again, I'll just restate this. Your unconventional methods are key to creating positive change. Again, this is a little bit more of a positive message than principle 1 and principle 2. Principle 1 was you've got this bandwidth and it's likely you're really burning it up as you try to get through your week. So I asked you to really notice bandwidth, what depletes it, what nourishes it. And just watch it as you go through the week and as you go around that cycle that I introduced in principle 1. that change cycle that starts with contemplation into ideation, determination, and activation. Principle 2 was that you can't create positive change just through negative means. And those negative means is stress and urgency. And those of us with ADHD often will kind of weaponize or leverage stress and urgency to get things done. But as we said, what got you here won't likely get you there to where we want to go. So principle 3 is about embracing these unconventional methods here, to embrace your wiring. Now, I imagine there's 1,000 spouses and another 1,000 colleagues who are doing a collective groan right now. You're encouraging this behavior? Or don't encourage them. So I'm not encouraging all of the behaviors that are associated with ADHD. I'm not encouraging the drop balls, the missed meetings, the missed recitals, the honey, I gotta work late again tonight, right? The imbalance with work and life, which is often the case. What I am encouraging is digging into and identifying the big, unique offering here. That your add value is in part how you address your tasks. And it's often not conventional. It's unique, it's original, and you've developed these practices over your lifetime out of necessity. As you're going around that cycle that I introduced, again, the contemplation, ideation, determination, activation cycle, you've been using a lot of brute force, right? I said we tend to have the hammer and the crowbar to move through those different phases. But in those practices, as you go around, to start to think about what are those unconventional methods that maybe you take for granted, and maybe others take for granted too. We often think that, oh, if it's easy, it must not be a strength. Really, that ease may mean it is a strength. And so to take note of that. And as I said earlier, we often downplay something that's easy or we take for granted. And when we do realize it, we often won't advocate that behavior to others around us. So then we're seen as the moody and misunderstood artist. So part of it is to identify these unconventional methods and then to speak to them, to advocate for that behavior. Now, the desire to conform is strong. The pressure to conform is strong in our society. You know, I'm just reminded of an example of a client that here's this organization that let one of my clients go because the client was consistently 10 minutes late to a 15-minute stand-up. Right? You see the problem there. Never mind, the client saved the organization $250,000 every year in waste and redundancy. Never mind that the client located a solution before anyone else in that 15-minute stand-up that they were consistently 10 minutes late to. Never mind. It's fascinating what we often elevate as significant or relevant, especially when it comes to performance review. Timeliness, consistency. And those are two areas that are pretty tough with ADHD. I'm not saying that they're not important, but it's likely not going to be your add value, right? So how can you articulate and elevate the real add value areas? And it's likely that that organization would never fully recognize the value of that employee, right? So environment matters. So this week, keep doing what you're doing, right? In that efforting and reacting and in the urgency of getting around that cycle, you're collecting really important data. And to start to look at that data of your own unique add value. As you're going through your week, as you're going around that cycle, to look for those unconventional methods that you may be taking for granted, that you may be downplaying or dismissing. Those are likely the key to creating the positive change that you want to create for yourself and your organization. All right, we'll see you. Thanks.